Jason, Clear Creek Farm. How we doing today? Today we're going to do the last of a three-part series on hoof trimming. So today we're going to do the last of the three-part series on hoof trimming. Today we're using an angle grinder. I got a DeWalt angle grinder with the 4 amp hour battery on here, 20 volt with a 40 grit sandpaper disc. That's what I'm going to use. I'm going to take and clean out the hoof with my clippers just to get the dirt out of it, but I'm not going to trim nothing off. At the end of this video, I'm going to do a total review on everything from the first two videos and this video on which one I like the best. I will leave a link to the other two parts of this three-part series at the end of the video, so if you want to see them, stay tuned to the end. This doe here hasn't had her hoof trimmed in quite a while, and if you could see here that she has some quite long hoof. So I'm going to clean them out. I'm going to use the angle grinder to knock all that down. I'm hoping I'll be able to do it all with the angle grinder to give you a good review of using an angle grinder. That was one of the first things I've used was an angle grinder when I started trimming goat hoofs and wanted something a little different than using just the clippers. This was the first thing that I used. The biggest thing I already know with the angle grinder that I don't like is it takes a while to get this excess off, even with a 40 grit, which is pretty aggressive. I'm going to show you using the angle grinder without taking any of the other off at first. On the other side, I'm going to actually knock it down with the trimmers and then use the angle grinder to finish it up. Like all of them, you want to make sure you try to get this even from top to bottom on both sides is what you're looking for. Now I'm just knocking down this old excess that's here. I can see a little pink, but it's hard. So most likely that is old overgrowth that has a little bit of redness in it. It should be all right to go through it. If you can see here, it throws a lot of dust and particles around. I almost have it down to where it needs to be, starting to get soft. Has a little bit of overgrowth here on the inside that I like to take off, but with that big angle grinder, it is kind of hard to get in there. I'm going to just do it as best as I can and then show you what it looks like afterwards. We got this knocked down here pretty good. It's pretty even all the way across. She does have a pretty high foot or hoof. That looks pretty good to me. Holding her down even. Might be able to knock off just a little bit more on this outside edge, but I think she's pretty good for now. Actually, after just looking at that, I want to take a little bit more toe off of there because she needs a little bit more toe taken off. So we'll set it down and see how she looks now. She looks quite a little bit better there. I'm going to bring you around this way and then I'll show you what it looks like once I got that part done. Now you can see that it's she's standing on it pretty square, pretty flat. It sets onto the stand pretty good. And actually it looks pretty decent here. So now we'll go to the back foot because like I said, I'm going to try to show you not using no trimmers other than to knock out the dirt. And then I'm going to take and on the other side, I will show you how much faster it is if you take off the excess first and then take and use the angle grinder to knock it down. Her back feet are actually really bad. She should have probably been done a long time ago. There ain't much dirt in them. but they should have been knocked down a long time ago. She was out on a live cover, and when she came back, we didn't end up getting her in to trim her hoofs, and they weren't that bad over the last month or so, month and a half. It's been pretty wet here, and they've actually grown out quite a little bit. Starting to get down here to where they're getting close to where they need to be. They're not as far down as I like them, so I'm going to take a little bit more off. But hopefully won't have to take too much more off of there. It does take a little bit to get them down when you don't use the trimmers to get them down first. Starting to get down to that pink. That's the one thing about the angle grinder or the Hoof Boss. You can start seeing the red coming through. That's when you know you gotta stop and let it be. That hoof's pretty good. We'll see how she stands on the side of it once I get it put down here. She's not standing down on it as good as I'd like her to. Probably could have took some off of the inside of that, but because I'm starting to get to where it's a little pink, I'm going to leave it like that. Now I'm going to show you the other side. Actually, you can see across how different she's standing on this leg compared to this leg. Now I'm going to do the other side using the clippers to knock down the hoof first, and then use the angle grinder to clean it up afterwards. Now let's do this back foot first. We're going to knock this off. Here, actually, this foot is way better than the other side for the way it was. We're going to get this excess knocked off of here, and then we'll bring the grinder in to clean it up. See, this is one of the downfalls with the angle grinder. It's just so big, and it's out there on the end, and then you got the battery on the end. Even with one that's got the regular motor on it, they're just so heavy on the nose front, what I don't like about them. That looks pretty good. We'll set her down and see how she looks. Take a look at her. She actually looks pretty decent there. We'll get a side angle. Side angle, she's actually standing pretty decent on that, the back foot on that other side there. So now let's go around and do that front side. So this front foot, I'm going to clean it out, and I'm going to knock down what I can first, and then I'm going to show you using the angle grinder to clean it up, finish it up. Because this one has a lot of overgrowth, just like the other side did. So, show you the difference between the two. I'm just trying to knock down what is folded over to the actual hoof here. Clean that out a little bit more. Now let's bring the angle grinder in to finish it up. Like I said before, this side's the hardest side to do it. Either trim them with the regular ones, the Hoof Boss, or even the angle grinder. you're still at an odd angle, especially if you're right-handed. As you can tell there, I'm starting to get down here to the pink. So I want to leave it just like that. So this foot should be done. It looks pretty even across there. And she actually stands up pretty good on it. There, as you can tell. Now this dough's done. Now we'll talk a little bit about the difference between the 3 different products I used in this 3-part series. Let's talk about the differences between 3 different hoof trimming products. The first thing here is the ARS Hoof Trimmers. I got these from Premier One. I will leave a link down below. These are something you need in your box. It don't matter if you have a Hoof Boss, if you're using an angle grinder, or if you use something different. You really need some type of hoof trimmers, and these are one of the best on the market that I like. They hold the sharpness. You can trim tons and tons of goats, and they're still trimming hoofs like they're brand new. Don't have no problems. Actually, I went to a place earlier today and trimmed 6 goats for them. They work, they last, they're good in the hand. The biggest downfall to these, if you're trimming a lot of goats, is the motion of squeezing. A lot of people can't do that for a long length of time, and that's one of the things with me. If I'm looking to do a quick job where I'm not trying to do precision and just want to get the hoof knocked down, these are what I go to. Now let's talk about the Hoof Boss. We're going to compare the Hoof Boss to the ARS trimmers. These can work hand to hand together. You really need these, even if you have one of these. The newer version of the Hoof Boss is way quicker than the old version. I had it, but I like the semi-cordless, as I call it. I'm not for sure exactly what they call it. Uses a DeWalt battery. You can pick them up on Amazon like that. I will leave a link down below to Hoof Boss for these, or you can get them on Amazon as well, and they're actually directly from Hoof Boss as well. This trims them up. It does good. It gets them down there to where they need to be. If you have a one that's really overgrown and it's really hard to cut big chunks of hoofs off, this works great. It's light. It's, ergonomical where you can use it, and it's not gonna hinder you after a while. I mean, it might get a little heavier after you do some goats, but I don't have the problem with this as I do when I go to the angle grinder, as I said in the video. So to me, this is a way better product than the angle grinder. You can get different discs for your application of what you're doing. Like with this dough here, I would have probably used the chain disc on her because she was so overgrown, and it would have took it down way quicker than using the angle grinder. I've never used a grinding disc on the angle grinder. I've always used the sandpaper disc. That's the biggest difference. And this does have a sandpaper disc. We usually use that for doing their horns, or if we have a young doe, it just has really light hoofs, we're gonna use that. But like I said before, you're still gonna need a good pair of hoof trimmers. They gotta go hand to hand. Even when you go over here and use the angle grinder, you still need the good pair of hoof trimmers to help knock you down. This one here is the 40 grit sandpaper. The biggest thing for me, the problem I see with the angle grinder and why I quit using it, it is really nose heavy. With this big old disc out here, you can't even put the guard on it because the way it sits, you can't get to where you need to be. So it's really heavy, nose heavy. Even with the big battery back here, it's really nose heavy. That's one of the worst things about the angle grinder, but you still need your hoof trimmers. But to me, that's the biggest downfall to this. And when you compare it to the Hoof Boss is actually way quicker. At least in my opinion, the Hoof Boss is way quicker than the angle grinder when it comes down to actually taking a hoof down to where it needs to be. I hope that helped you guys out. Hope you guys that questioned me about why I don't use an angle grinder, I hope that helps you guys. I will leave a link to the 3-part series if you want to look at the difference is between using just a pair of clippers, the Hoof Boss, and the angle grinder, how I do it. If you guys are looking for any Clear Creek Farm merchandise, I will leave a link down below. We do have some stuff available on our website, clearcreekboargoats.com. Go to the shop page and they're on there. It's free shipping, so go on there and check that out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this 3-part series. And if you guys have anything you want us to do, it's that time of year where things are slow, please leave them down in the comments and we'll try to get a video made. If it's something we can just answer the question for you, we'll do that. Thank you guys for coming along and see you on the next video.